All right, good afternoon. It is December 27th, 2023, a Wednesday. Today I made about $345 in my account. And so this is what we're looking at on the 15-minute for the end of the day, and it was pretty not awesome. Trading intraday bias for me was hard to pick a bias today and be able to stay confident in it, and it was hard to find entries and be able to execute into a trade, and have confidence to leave a runner. But I got all out at the highs for the longs I took and was just done. I finished up real quick in the morning, right actually before this big giant bearish candle right at 10 o'clock, and called it a day. And I'm glad I did because this was not amazing price action after that. But coming in to staying on the 15-minute. Pre-market looking, this is what I had wanted price to do, and that come down, take these relative equal lows, and take out this nice little juicy sell side liquidity sitting in this 30-minute for value gap. But stuck on OBS. But that we did end up coming down, but we did not bounce out like I had wanted to until recently, and I'm hoping that we can continue to displace above this high, but instead of just sweeping it, because we're kind of forming a three drive right here for to the looking to the downside, which I'm hoping we don't go, but I'm hoping we can continue to build out of this. But 30-minute fair value gap did hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and that liquidity was swept. So I was glad to see that my thoughts had played out. It just didn't get there how I wanted to. But so coming in, scaling into the 1 minute, I had taken 4 stabs at longs today. And if we go back, you look and you could think, well, how were any of these losers? None of my stop losses were ever hit. And that's something that I still struggle with, and that this is a 1 minute for value gap, and this black line in the middle of it is equilibrium of that 1 minute for value gap, and we held and no bodies ever came below, but I still price started slashing through a breaker over here, and I wasn't super confident in it, and I got out, and eventually I was able to get in a pyramid into a good trade, excuse me. But I'm going to get rid of this and give you guys my thought process that I was looking at here. So we did come in at open and we had swept some sell side right away. So automatically, major sell or external sell side swept. We should technically be looking for shorts because that would make sense if for trading this model. But we displaced above. I think we got a breaker. Yep, right up there on the 1 minute, and we also end up forming one on the 3 minute later on. But price ends up opening a 1 minute fair value gap, and this fair value gap ends up being the dictator of price action for the next 30 minutes. Oh, also too, we did have news. We had a yellow folder news at 10 o'clock, which ended up not doing anything to price. I was holding a trade through that. But price came back in. I wanted to get in if we tap this fair value gap, so I did. We came down, we tapped it. I wanted to, I wanted to go long to that high, and my stop would have been a close below. So a little 1 to 2, not terrible. And price just kind of ended up bouncing around in here and not really doing much. And then we started coming back down, and I was kind of getting a little worried because we had created a order block to push us lower. And about here, I think it was, I had gotten out, and there was no reason to get out at that point. It wasn't even at equilibrium of the fair value gap, And that is a big thing that I still struggle with, is being confident with my stop loss. But also at the same time, I was looking at ES. Um, ES the entire day was not. Oh, I bet I can't do replay onto them. So ES at 9:30 in the morning, it just went up and it was just slowly chopping up. So ES holding for longs was giving me more conviction that, hey, NQ might bump up and take this high again. Because at this point we did have a bullish SMT right before pre-market, but I had gotten out of that trade and I had gotten into another one. Oh man, I think it was right in here. Same thing, targeting the high, close below, and this one was slightly worse RR than the other one because my fill was up here because I had a manual entry, and price ended up coming down and I ended up getting out because I wasn't happy with it. And I was just going to sit there and wait for an entry, and we came down, we hit equilibrium of the 1 minute for value gap. I was like, okay, we are holding this for value gap several times. I still think we see this high, and ES is in a position where it is holding the market up right now. ES is holding NQ up. And I think at the time I had heard somebody in the Discord mention that DXY was just dumping. Um, so I had confluence just to go long. I just needed to wait. Uh, so we eventually do get some movement out of here, and we have a little shift of structure, and we create a little nice little 1 minute for value gap here. And I was saying, hey, if we come back in and we touch this for value gap, I'm going to go long with the stop below the low of the candle that created the fair value gap, targeting the high. So a pretty nice risk to reward. It goes down here, but a hard stop as a close below this order block, but a soft stop if we violate this 1 minute fair value gap. So price does come back in and touches it and immediately moves up, and we don't sweep the high, but also we create another 1 minute fair value gap that is in line with a nice little 1 minute order block. So I was thinking, all right, I still think price is going to this high. So if we can come back down and touch this fair value gap, that's not what I wanted, and touch the order block more, so if we can come in there, I will enter another contract and go forward. Price comes down, taps me in, and then immediately goes up and takes out the high. And that was my trade. And I ended up being able to pyramid in two contracts, but I am looking for risk off. Just since it's the last few days of the new year, there is going to be less volume in the market. And as you can see, how today ended up panning out, it was not a pretty day, but these trades ended up panning out very nicely. And then after this, we just ended up dumping. And I can touch on that in a minute, just marking this back up for you guys. Take a look at. Oop. Okay, I do not want magnet. But yes, these were the trades. Good pyramid in, entering off an order block and a fair value gap after we had already had a shift of structure and moving to the top. But this year was kind of our confirmation shift of structure. And as you can see, it took us 3 candles to be able to get over it. But once we did, ran right to the highs. And that is exactly what you want to see happen. But had a little buy model in here, distribution, distribution, hit equilibrium of this 1 minute fair value gap, moved up, distribution, create a fair value gap with an order block, never closed a body inside of the fair value gap, but we never touched the order block either. And then moved up another order block, another fair value gap, and went up nicely. In my draw and liquidity video, I talked on how price will almost stair step sometimes, and it will just build and build and build like it's walking up steps. And that is what you want to see. When price picks a clear direction, you will be able to tell where it wants to go. Just from looking at this, you can see that price just wants to reach higher, and it sweeps that high, and I am all out of my contracts there. And at that point, I am just watching. And then we come in next, and market just dumps right into that 30-minute fair value gap. But also, too, in mind that markets are fractal, we have a buy model right here simultaneously going right into a sell model. And that's just something that is very helpful to keep in mind, is that is there an explanation or is there probability for shorts? If I'm looking to go long, is there a case that I can make for shorts? Because if there is, I need to reassess. If I'm not 100% confident that I think we're going to go to this high, then I'm going to have to think about that trade before I take it. So yes, today ended up not being a super pretty day, and I'm really glad that I got off right away. Right after I won my trades, I got off because I was not going to try and trade this. And looking in here, at least with my model, there was not, there probably was, but right off a glance, I can't see a place for entries because when we ran and never, we touched one fair value gap here, dumped, never touched a fair value gap. We did there, yeah, the bias was very hard today, but I think there definitely was room to execute. You just need to be a little bit more careful. But yeah, ended up netting around 340 today, and count sits at 1,100, or sorry, $101,617.58. Here is my win from that trade, my commissions, and then a loss. I tried to close at break even, and I must have only took 3 trades today. Yeah, and then the loss that I closed, the first one that I got a little worried about. But have a good rest of your afternoon and good luck tomorrow.